Welcome to the We Chat Divorce Podcast. Conversations about real people, real situations, and real divorce. Your hosts Karen Shalhoub and Katherine Shanahan, co-founders of Divorce U Solutions, share their personal and professional experience to demystify the big business of divorce. Get ready to gain clarity and even have a laugh or two. It's time for We Chat Divorce.
We Chat Divorce Podcast number 4, the B word.
The B word, huh? Hello, I'm Katherine. I'm here with Karen, and we are your co-hosts of We Chat Divorce Podcast. First off, please know and remember that divorce does not define you. It is a part of our story, and it may be a part of your story, and that's okay. You are not alone. We are here to share our insight and inspirations with you by addressing the good stuff and the bad stuff. You know, the BS. Hopefully, these podcasts will help you move forward in a positive direction.
Mention the word budget, and reactions can vary from wide-eyed to confusion to sheer panic. But rarely do you receive a positive reaction. Mention the words lifestyle analysis, and the responding look can be very similar. However, when going through the process of divorce, these two words will become critical components before, during, and after divorce.
You know, it's interesting when you say lifestyle analysis. I want to talk about some famous people for a minute. Everyone knows Fergie and Josh Jamal. I think that's how you say his name. Very handsome man. But I love Fergie. So they got married, I think they've been together 13 years, and now they're getting divorced.
Oh.
And the reason, so I hear, or have read, I should say, is that they have different lifestyles. So when they got married, it was one of the attractions. He was more the laid-back, stay-at-home type of country boy, and she was the LA party girl, likes to go out. So together they had a lot of fun. But do you really think about what your lifestyle is like during the dating phases? And then when you get married 10 years later, do we all want to be who we really are? And then our lifestyles no longer, I know this is not what we're talking about as far as money-wise and budgeting, but lifestyle is really something to consider because, as we'll talk about later, when we have to make shifts in our budget for our lifestyles, if you get married to somebody as part of the attraction to live their lifestyle or for them to live your lifestyle, and then it doesn't work out.
Or to combine the lifestyles and become even yet a third lifestyle, which is a component of each of yours. Really, how many people think of their life as a lifestyle?
Right.
I don't think a lot of people do that. So many people ask, what is a lifestyle analysis?
Especially when you meet somebody and your attraction is, I love that they're doing things that I don't do or I'm not accustomed to doing. It's very attractive, which is what happened with them. And then after so many years, you realize, okay, maybe it was too much and the fun kind of wore off and real life is settling in. And I want to be a little different. I want to be me.
Right. And the compromise to a different lifestyle was not something they were willing to settle for. I didn't really read up on their separation.
Well, now that they have a child who is adorable in the pictures, he wants to raise his son a certain way, and she wants to raise her son a certain way. And it's their lifestyles. They're just a little bit different. And that's what they're looking for. So it's leading them down the divorce path, unfortunately.
So, Katherine, talk to us about what is a lifestyle analysis versus a budget.
So when going through divorce, one of the first questions is, what is your need if we're talking about support? And what is your lifestyle that you're accustomed to living? Because a lot of people get really upset. Well, wait a minute, I got to do that while I was married. Why am I not getting to do that now that I'm divorced? I need to get a job. What are you talking about? Why isn't he supporting the things they did, or why isn't she supporting the things that we did? So your lifestyle analysis is, how are you living, or how did you become accustomed to living? So if you were living in a very large house and you had a cleaning lady coming every 2 weeks and you had somebody helping you do your any chores, those are things you're accustomed to. If you're dining out all of the time and you're going to big events, so you have to buy clothing for those events, or your children are in many activities and you're taking a lot of vacations together because that's what you and your husband or vice versa had planned to do, that's a lifestyle. It's how you're living. You're driving certain cars, you're buying certain personal items, to keep up with what you're supposed to be doing professionally. That's a lifestyle.
And you're thinking about spending money versus not thinking about spending money. I think that is a lifestyle as well. If you're even processing the dollars as they're being spent versus, well, this needs to be bought, so I'm buying it, that in and of itself, I think, is a lifestyle. And when you're going through the divorce process, that mindset has to change, whether in the future you have to think about it or not, I believe, because from a court's perspective or from the divorce process perspective, being aware of how your money is being spent is really a critical component.
Well, yeah, because then you're thinking for yourself also, and you have one family income coming in, so you have to budget. Now our budget's coming in. A budget is what the real need is.
Yeah, you have to articulate it.
Mm-hmm. What are the real expenses? What's the real income for your cash flow? And what is something that's just considered extra or lavish lifestyle that you can give up?
So talk about a scenario if somebody would come to you and say, Catherine, I'm going to have to make some changes in the way I spend money. I'm going to have to look at my lifestyle. And I think something that comes up a lot for us, or that we hear, is the cleaning lady, getting our house clean. How do you help people look at that in a different way?
Well, people usually say, I'm not making ends meet, and what do I need to do to make them meet? I wish they would say, I need to make an adjustment in my spending. Mm-hmm. So they don't really do that. They really say, okay, how is this supposed to work, basically? And I have to say, you need to make an adjustment. So when they fill out their actual expenses and I give them a budget form, and it comes back and I see that they are, let's just say, deficit of, meaning they don't have enough money to meet their needs by $200 a month. And I see on their cleaning lady, that's $100 a week. So it's costing them $400 a month just for the cleaning lady. The hard conversation there is, the first thing I'm telling you to do is you have to get rid of the cleaning lady. And it's funny when they say, I know what you're going to say. I have to get rid of the cleaning lady. Yes. and most of the time their kids are older. So it's okay. Maybe get the cleaning lady once a month, not every week. Make that kind of adjustment. Those are the difficult conversations. You can't get your nails done. Or maybe you get your hair cut every 10 weeks instead of every 6 weeks. The little personal adjustments are the hard ones, but they work. You do have to cut them out.
Yeah. What about going out to dinner with a group of people and knowing how to pay your piece when usually you're just a big spender? How do you talk about that?
You know, for our generations, this is a really awkward one because not many people have home parties anymore. We all go out to eat. We meet in large groups. Everybody just throws money in, or you just order whatever you want, and at the end, we all split it amongst however many people are there. I remember having this conversation with a woman who is really very generous, and she goes out a lot, and she has a huge problem with debt. So she said, I don't really know what to do. I go out to dinner all the time, but I promise I'm only going to spend $20 tonight. Okay, how are you going to do that? I don't really know. She tries it. She cannot do it. Next time she comes in, she said, I have a real issue and I want you to help me. I'm going out with about 10 people to a dinner. I'm not going to really eat. I might have an appetizer and I might have 1 or 2 glasses of wine. But I know the people with me drink a lot and they'll be eating large dinners. What do I do? I said, well, here's a suggestion. Whoever organized the event, why not pulling them aside or calling them before? Somebody organized it. Somebody put it together. Call them and say, hey, Karen, if it was you, I'm really excited to go to dinner tonight. I'm a little anxious because I can't afford to chip in amongst everybody, but I don't want to seem like the cheap person or the Debbie Downer that is going to really be sitting there counting how many drinks everyone is having. So I don't really know how to do this. I'm on a budget. Would you mind if I had my own check? Just in the beginning when the waitress comes, since you organized it, if it's a group check, could you just say that we're all doing individual checks or Catherine's going to be on her own check? And she's like, oh my gosh, I never thought to do that. And I said to her, let me know, because I bet you there's a couple other people in that group that will be so thankful that you did that. I agree.
That's a big thing with women going out together. I think generally guys, when they go out, they just split the check up. But women tend to be more aware of their budget and their restrictions and they don't really know how to handle that situation. And that's a great idea.
I'm going to challenge that with the men as well, though, because there are a lot of men, too, that are a little worried that, they're not drinkers. They're the ones driving, or maybe their wife doesn't drink as much or eat as much, and now they have to pay for everybody else. Or maybe they don't even like who their spouse is making them go out with. So why are they treating them to a large dinner? So I think for everyone involved, it's better. And I got to be honest here again. I remember going out with a group of women saying, can you believe she wants her own check? Like, oh my gosh, she's complaining she only had one drink. And I remember doing that. And now that I'm older and wiser, well, at least older, I get it. Now it's like, okay, I get it. So I apologize for anyone I thought that about prior to this. So this woman come up to me and asking me this. It should be an individual thing if you're in a large group like that and you are on a limited budget. And you know what? It's okay. And then you get to actually enjoy your dinner there because you're not counting what everybody else is doing the whole night thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to chip in $50 or $100. I can't afford this, but I really want to be amongst those people. And I even said to her, if they have a problem with that, they don't really want you there.
And especially going through the divorce process where you have to be hyper aware of every dollar going out the door. It's better to do that than to stay at home and do nothing.
Well, think about that too. If you're divorced and you're going out with your married friends, your one meal, how are you chipping in with all the couples? I mean, my experience when I went through my divorce and I went out with married couples, I got to say I have some really good friends. They never made me chip in, probably because they felt bad for me, for one, or two is they knew that I was all by myself. But I could see that now that I would be, let me just get my own check.
Right.
Then now I'm standing on my own 2 feet. I don't want to make everybody else feel like they're obligated to me. And I want them to invite me out.
And it's important that you have the ability to go out and remain on your budget.
There were other things that were brought up also, like you're single, you don't have children, and you're treating your nephew and nieces all the time. And your family is becoming reliant on that. So instead of saying, okay, I'll meet you at this diner to treat everybody to breakfast, how about everybody come to my home and you could put out a smaller breakfast or have whoever is coming bring something. So the burden is not on you to always pick up that check. I had that conversation before as well. And it was, okay, you do that and that's wonderful. I love that you do that. But look at your budget. You can't afford to do that on a weekly basis, particularly. But you can afford to invite them to your home and have them bring something and do something light. And she said, oh my gosh, that's really a good idea. I'm going. And then you don't feel so obligatory to take them out to a larger meal.
And be stressed about it.
Because the whole point is really not the meal, I would think. It's spending the time with the person.
And the treat of it.
Right,
I think.
Right.
Well, speaking of budget, that is a very critical component of the divorce process before, during, and after divorce. And you'll hear us talk about it a lot. The reason that the budget is so important is because the court system and or a mediator and or anyone assisting you through the process will use your budget as a guideline or a navigator of sorts as to what your needs are. There's also different situations. For instance, when someone owns their own small business or when they're an owner of a business, not necessarily a small business, or if someone's in a position of getting bonuses, those dollars aren't as apparent as a paycheck. So the ability to recreate your expense list, know your lifestyle, know how the money is being spent is really important because it will help then for the courts or anybody who's assisting you again, make sure that you have what you need to move forward. Another thing that everybody needs to be aware of is that if you lived on a shoestring budget during your marriage, that shoestring is going to get a little bit thinner, especially during the divorce process. So to be able to prepare for that, have your budget in front of you so you know how and you're aware of how every dollar is spent is critical. Go ahead.
You know why that's getting so thin is because it's a one income.
Right, but supporting two different
households.
Correct. And the support monies may not come initially, so you're going to have to really be aware and cognizant of how you spend your money.
Well, think about
and it may only be temporary.
Right.
Yeah.
But think about you want to keep your home and you believe that your spouse is going to keep giving you however much they need to give you to maintain the home that you're used to. and your children still live there and the electricity, everything's the same. Well, that's not the way it goes. So you're thinking that all those expenses will continue to be paid because that's the, quote, lifestyle you were used to living. That's not the case. It goes into a budget, which is different because those are what it costs to run the household, but that budget is what your support payments are supposed to cover. So it's really something you need to consider when you're going through your budget and what your needs are going to be and how you want to make your future lifestyle. If it's going to be all about paying your home, okay, that's the lifestyle you're living. I mean, it's the reason I got out of my marital home, because every payment would have gone to upkeeping this large home. I didn't want my future lifestyle to be just about a house.
Right. And the income's not necessarily going to change, but the expenses are going to increase by some level as a result of the divorce because you're supporting two households.
Well, the income will change because you won't be getting it all.
That's true. I meant...
You mean as a whole?
As a whole, unless someone gets a job, and a lot of times that does become necessary. And two other components of the necessity of a budget is if a lot of times people will get a cash settlement as a result of the divorce, and or the alimony payments start coming in, or child support payments come in. It's so important that you get advice from a financial advisor during this time, because at some point the alimony and child support will end. You can't just use all that money up without knowing what it means in the future. And a lot of people, you know, they say, let's just say someone's getting 10 years of alimony or child support until their children are 18, which is typical. Well, that's going to end. And what are you going to do post that? Hope is not going to get you very far, but planning will. Getting in front of a financial advisor to get some real advice on that, and then using what money you have to create a budget for now that will sustain you through is really, really important.
Karen, what do you suggest when people cannot meet their budget needs?
Well, from my own personal experience, I had to negotiate a raise with my employer. It was due. It was earned, but it did give me the confidence and actually the motivation I needed to go in and create that raise. Some people are going to have to go get a job. Some people may need to get a loan from a family member.
Or you can marry a sugar daddy or a sugar mama.
That would be yet another option.
No, I like your ideas better. More empowering. So let's be realistic about this.
Okay.
You have that alimony coming in and you have the child support money coming in until that time, and you really are not thinking, like you're saying, budgeting, because how many people actually budget? I would love to poll
I don't
people.
think a lot.
No, I mean, I didn't even budget myself.
I'm a budgeteer.
Yeah, you are. You are.
I've always budgeted, probably since I was 5.
I think I more or less do it in my head and not necessarily on paper, but it's so much more important to do it on paper than it is to do it in your head. But what happens is when those payments come in, there's a lot going on in your mind and you're like crazed. You don't even know. You're still upset. It takes a couple of years to get over the whole divorce itself. So I do recommend go ahead and buy yourself, do a little splurge. I mean, don't spend every little thing. I bought a ring. Do what you need to do to make yourself feel better, and then seriously hone in and do that budget, because it does go a lot faster. I mean, I can't believe my divorce is 6 years now already. 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So it goes so fast. And do hone in, like you said, and put those numbers down and live by it, because the most important thing people forget to budget about is taxes.
Your
correct. Alimony, unless you're a lucky one that got it in the agreement that it was not taxable, which is very rare, is taxable. The IRS will not wait for your payment. So you immediately, if you're not with a financial planner, because you're just not with one yet, get with a daily money manager and budget for your taxes. Immediately with those first checks, you should be putting at least 20% aside in an account to pay your taxes quarterly or by April. That's the biggest thing I hear a lot of people saying, oh my God, I forgot alimony was taxable, or I didn't budget for that because my attorney didn't tell me it was taxable, which I'm sure their attorney did tell them that, but it was just so much coming into their head that they just forgot about it.
Right.
So you do have to do something for yourself, but then really get serious and get that budget together.
That's really important. And there's a lot of things that you may not consider or may not even think about when you're putting a budget together. So we do have a budget worksheet that we'll talk about at the end of the podcast so that you'll at least have a guideline when you're going through this process.
Let's talk about some things that you have to consider, though. You
Okay.
know, a lot of times you think, everyone says, how do you do a budget? I don't know how to do a budget. Yes, we have that form and it's great. It has everything listed. But do you know what's really included when they list these things on a case information statement, or just when your attorney or anyone that's helping you through the process tells you that you have to consider when doing that budget? For examples, what does a food expense include? Right? Like they say food expense. Okay, well, I don't know what that includes. Well, it includes the cost of your groceries, your toiletries, your cleaning supplies, and casual eating out. So that would be food expenses.
Lunches, coffee,
Yes, you can include those.
etc., etc.
Then you have auto expenses. So people think, what are auto expenses? Oh, I have a car payment. Well, there's other things including with that. What about gasoline, oil changes, tune-ups, tire replacements, and any other maintenance or related items with your car? So list these things and include them. Everyone forgets to include a lot of these things. Clothing expense. What do you think clothing expense is? Going every week and buying yourself a new outfit?
That goes back to lifestyle.
Right, exactly. So clothing expense just includes your shoes and clothing purchases that you need that are necessities, clothing repair and alterations, and related items such as that. Then you have laundry expenses. This is another big one. What's laundry expenses?
It's not clothing?
No, it is the cost of doing like laundry service. If your lifestyle includes a lot of dry cleaning, you include that in there for your budget. School expenses include tuition, supplies, field trips. Don't forget field trips, because we hear about a lot of people arguing who's paying the field trip because nobody discussed it. Dues, tutors, locker rentals, school lunches, and other related items to school expenses, arts and crafts supplies, and so forth. What do you think entertainment? What would you put for your entertainment expenses?
Now, see, I would have put dining out for my entertainment expenses.
Right. And that would be larger, not the casual dining out.
Mm-hmm.
So entertainment would include going to Phillies games or any other sporting events, going to the movies, a theater, taking vacations, things like that.
And that should not be the first thing you knock off your list, really. You may have to minimize it a little bit, but it's really important that you're taking care of yourself and having fun times during this. Otherwise, you'll just succumb to the stress and the intensity of it all.
I agree. I think I need to plan a vacation when we leave here, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
You're making me think of that. Then you have your adult incidental expenses. That's your cosmetics, your hair, your nails, buying books and magazines, newspapers, business dues, memberships, your pets, anything you give to charity, or your religious dues, gifts, bank charges, hobbies, things such as that. Of course, you want to be able to include all your payments on anything else. But those are some of the things that people get a little confused about on what do I actually include in that. So I wanted to kind of update you on that and help you out there.
I'm going to add a couple of things. Home appliances, savings accounts, saving for college. Those things
that's
will
a
be
really good
factored in
point.
at one point. Yeah.
Because, I don't go over that a lot. So in your budget, I know as a financial advisor, we like our clients to save about 10% at least a year. So you have to really include 10% of what your lifestyle was like before. Put that in there.
And even if you're not able to reach those budget levels of where you want to be, having them front and foremost on a piece of paper helps you know what you have to do to reach it. So it could help define what kind of job you need or how to minimize other expenses to get to those really important ones. Hopefully we're not boring you too much with all this data, but we can't help you understand how very important it is. And before we sign off, I think we should go over a rule of thumb on kind of percentages of how much various expenses should be factored into your budget. So typically, housing expense is 25 to 35%, utilities 5 to 10%, transportation 10 to 15%, and that does include the car payment. Healthcare 5 to 10%. Families all over America are seeing this increase in healthcare cost, probably exceeding more than 5 to 10% of any household income. So that is really affecting all of our daily lives. Food, 5 to 15%. Savings, 5 to 10%, to Catherine's point. Debt payments, this is credit card debt, mostly. 5 to 10%. That wouldn't necessarily be mortgage. That would be any kind of debt that you would have that's not mortgage. Charitable giving, 5 to 15%. We all love to give. Sometimes when you're going through a rough time, you may not have money to give. Volunteer efforts are just as effective. Entertainment, recreation, 5 to 9%. And then the whole miscellaneous category, 2 to 7%.
So are you saying take your monthly income and make sure all of those categories fall within those percentages and then make your adjustment according to that?
That's a good overall way to look at it. Yeah, and then you can drill down. It's just kind of a model, a template of sorts. So all of this may sound like a lot of work, and it may be, and yes, it will be, especially if you're not accustomed to thinking in these terms. However, the alternative can be very expensive and overwhelming if you do not take these steps. Frankly, you stand the risk of jeopardizing yours and your family's life post-divorce if you skip this very important part of the divorce process. Thanks for joining our community. Email us at info@divorceusesolutions.com and mention this podcast, and we will send you a complete copy of our budget worksheet so that you can get started right away. We would love to hear from you, either via email or in the comments section below. Oh, and like our Facebook page and Instagram page. For more information about who we are and what we do, please visit our website at www.divorcesolutions.com.
Divorce is never easy, and although your life may be changing, change can be good. We want you to know and remember that you are not alone, and you will be okay. We'll talk soon. We chat because you matter.